ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start by everybody standing, and we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. If there's no objection, I will go ahead and start, but I'm not going to read the entire warning before going through the individual articles. The legal voters of the White River Unified School District, consisting of the towns of Bethel and Royalton, are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Royalton campus of the White River Unified School District in Royalton, Vermont on March 3rd, 2025 at 6:00 p.m. to consider and act upon the following articles, 1 through 12, and to discuss the articles to be voted upon by Australian ballot, Articles 13 and 14 only. Article 1, to elect a moderator who shall assume office immediately and serve a one-year term or until the election and qualification of a successor. Do I have any nominations?
Nominate Dana Kolovec.
Okay. Dana Kolovec. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, nominations are closed. All those in favor of electing Dana Kolovec, please signify by raising your cards. Anyone opposed? It's all yours.
Thank you, Allison, I think. There are some preliminary comments I'd like to make, if I have the consent of the body tonight, and it relates to, first of all, it relates to this, and I haven't heard an objection, so I'll proceed. I know many of us have strong feelings about what is happening in the nation and our communities right now. Anger, fear, outrage, and a whole range of heightened concerns about where we're headed as a country. I think we need to acknowledge those emotions and recognize that they are real and very present, but I would also ask that for the next couple of hours maybe, that we put those concerns aside. We recognize that it is our collective responsibility as a community of committed citizens that we attend to the business at hand and that we fulfill those responsibilities with the civility and respect and the thoughtfulness required. With that, I ask you to refer to Robert's Rules of Order cheat sheet that Pam brought multiple copies of, and some of you may have, and you can refer to them. We have a few extras. Pam may have some more. And I will add my, it's just for tomorrow. Before we start also, if you are not a registered voter, are there any members here who are not registered voters? Raise your hand, please. Okay. 2. Okay. Make sure your phones and your electronic devices are turned off. Raise your hand, and when recognized, if you want to make a motion, when you're recognized by the moderator, identify yourself. If you wish to move or second a motion, speak on an article, ask a question, or raise a point of order. Articles must be moved and seconded before discussion. The maker of a motion has the right to speak first. Please be concise and brief if possible. There's a 10-minute limit, and I'll time it if it looks to be appropriate. When recognized, please come to one of the microphones. Use one. I don't think we're going to have handed out tonight, are we? And if we have a paper ballot, there will be instructions from the boards of civil authority about the process we use here in Royalton. Please be respectful, civil, and as brief as possible. This is your meeting, and I look forward to working with you to make it happen. Article number 2, to elect a school district clerk who shall assume office July 1, 2025, and serve a one-year term until the election and qualification of a successor. Do I hear nominations?
I nominate Carmen Bascom.
Carmen Bascom has been nominated. Thank you, Pam Brown. I'm sorry? Second. Who seconded?
Nomination.
Nah, thank you. We have a nomination of Carmen Bascom as the district treasurer. Any other nominations? I jumped down one, I'm sorry. District clerk, thank you. This is my first time in about 10, 15 years since I've spoken to a group, so bear with me while I get my feet under me. Any other nominations? All those in favor, raise your cards. Looks like it's all opposed. It looks unanimous. Carmen's been nominated and elected as school district clerk. Article 3, to elect a school district treasurer who shall assume office July 1, 2025 and serve a one-year term or until the election and qualification of a successor. Are there nominations are open?
Nominate
Pam Brown has been nominated.
Second.
No, we don't need that apparently, but thanks. Any other nominations for district treasurer? Hearing none, all those in favor of Pam, raise your card. All opposed? That looks unanimous as well. Article 4. If there is no objection, we would ask that upon the, I'll read the article, to hear and act upon the reports of the school district officers. If there's no objection, non-residents would be allowed to speak on this issue. Any objections? Hearing none. Let's hear the report of the school directors. Do you need?
All right, well, thanks everybody for coming out. We're just going to start with some welcome and introductions. Introduce all of us that are up here in front. I'm Andrew Jones. I'm the chair of this White River Unified District School Board. And
In order.
sure, let's just go on.
Andrew Bowen, elementary principal. Bethel resident.
Pierre Laflamme, I'm the middle school principal.
Jeff Thomas, high school principal.
Middle School Board Director, Bethel.
Sullivan, School Board Director, Royalton.
Nancy Pageway, School Board Director, Bethel.
Peggy Ainsworth, school board director in Royalton.
So we normally have a couple other administrative representatives like Jamie Canarney and Tara, but they're off doing other annual meetings tonight, so they're not here today. Okay, I'm going to invite Pierre to come up and give a little presentation.
Thank you. What you see behind me is a graphic that represents an encapsulation of our vision. The WRVSU Portrait of a Learner was developed by representatives from our students, faculty, staff, administration, school board, and members of your communities throughout more than just the past school year. The students and faculty and staff throughout the WRVSU were able to share their thoughts on a couple of key questions. What are you most proud about your school? What is the greatest challenge for your school that provides an opportunity for change? What are your hopes and dreams for our school? And if your hope or dream was realized in just 5 years, what would it look like or sound like? Our community in general engaged in this process by answering what are the 3 to 5 most important characteristics, capabilities, and experiences that learners of the WRVSU need to prepare them for success in learning and in life. This resulted in the aforementioned final product of the WRVSU Portrait of a Learner. The POL will now act as a visual representation to speak to what we expect our students to know, understand, and do prior to departing any of our 10 schools in the WRVSU. This isn't a new initiative. It's not a new entire concept. It actually builds upon the work that's been done over the years. And you'll notice that our WRVSU Portrait of a Learner also incorporates the 5 key pillars of the community schools project that was underway for the last several years. We're committed to upholding the pillars along with our commitment to ensuring that we are fostering what you see on this poster, this image: effective communication and collaboration, flexible thinking, resiliency and well-being, personal and community responsibility, creativity and curiosity, and academic proficiency. These, again, mirror the work that's been done throughout various projects and the investments you've made in your community. Thank you. And with that, I turn it over to Andrew Bowen.
I'm just going to kick off some celebrations as briefly as possible. Our teachers and staff have participated in over 62 professional development workshops, classes, and/or conferences to date this school year. Last year was 61. Topics have ranged from exploring dyslexia, from the brain to the classroom, CPR and first aid, Vermont Kindergarten Conference, explicit vocabulary instruction through Vermont Reads, curriculum-specific trainings, and more. In addition to our half days have provided for over 28 hours of embedded professional development time for faculty and staff. And I don't know which clicker to click. Wrong one. Community involvement. We have been happy to invite our community into our school via welcome back ice cream socials, open houses, concerts, conferences with an elementary 94% attendance rate, workshops via Barn Arts Global Music Residency, our book fair in partnership with the Yankee Bookshop in Woodstock, Read a Story Day, and our fall festival in conjunction with our fire departments, spelling bees, winter activities, and more. We also hope that many of you will come to our upcoming community conversation on Social Media 101 and Digital Wellness on March 18th. With Farm to School, we are in year 2 of working with our Farm to School coordinator, Francie Slater. We kicked off this school year by diving into projects for the Tunbridge World's Fair and submitting pies, breads, applesauce, vegetable flour, and seed art, as well as floral bouquets. Our displays of learning and artistry were plentiful in the Floral Hall, and our students' work won many ribbons. This school year, elementary students have also participated in food preservation workshops, taste testing and lessons, Hispanic Heritage Month, masa demos with Moon and Stars, junior Iron Chef clubs, holiday feast pie making events, and more. Our next focus for our elementary school with Farm to School is developing an elementary school garden on each campus and increasing the local food for our cafeteria. And then finally, social emotional. Our elementary school has been focused on strengthening its systems of support over the past several years with a specific focus on behavior and social emotional learning through the Positivity Project, which is used in our morning meetings, and on Wildcat Fridays, which kids will tell you are mixed age group lessons that we learn about our character strengths, such as humility, gratitude, and curiosity. We have received acknowledgement this year from Secretary Saunders about the impressive efforts of our school staff to support students and families by maintaining our PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports implementation. At WRVES, students participate in morning meetings, literacy, writing, math blocks daily, as well as science, social studies, music, PE, guidance, educating children outdoors, library, and art throughout each week. The spring 2024 state summative assessment results that you can see up here show that our students outperform the state in all grade levels across English, language arts, math, and science. We formally assess students 3 times a year as a school in an effort to collect data on academic learning and progress using multiple assessments. Educators then are able to measure the effectiveness of their teaching and utilize this data from these assessments to identify the most effective and appropriate interventions to close gaps in achievement. Through regular data analysis of assessments, next steps are identified for student learning and progress is monitored and interventions are adjusted as needed. I'm going to tell you it's working. At WRVES so far this year, 65% of our K-5 students are currently meeting or exceeding the expectations in mathematics, and the number of students scoring well below the expectation decreased by almost 1/2 since the fall. In elementary ELA, 55% of our K-5 students are currently meeting or exceeding the expectations, and the number of students well below the expectation decreased by 1/3 since the fall. We see growth in all academic areas in the elementary and are so very proud of our students' progress and the impact our teachers are making.
So I'd like you to consider the power of the phrase yes and. Something we're habituating ourselves to. Yes, and what else are we doing? We in the middle school too are engaged in all manner of professional development, and this is an SU and a school district that support that kind of growth. What I've chosen to do for you are put a few snapshots in combing through piles and piles of pictures of what our students are experiencing over this past year and our staff are engaged in. I tried to pick a few highlights that really point to a cycle of learning. In many of these cases, these pictures are representing a situation where an adult had to do some further learning. Upper left is, I'm sorry. Oh, it's on the next slide. We have adults that are going out and learning how to build boats, learning how to tuft wool, learning how to do various projects that draw on the learning that's happening in the classroom. And again, in many of these situations, the investment of the adult in their own professional growth and the championing from the community for these things that are important lead to these wonderful experiences. Just to highlight a few, in the upper right you see some clocks. What do clocks represent? Consider how many young people can't tell time using an analog clock. Rather than just teach them what the hands mean, a group of students learned how to tell time, created their own clocks, then gifted them to their family and had to recreate their learning. This is what it means. And they're then brought into teaching others. Other situations, bottom right-hand side, you see how our shop program is flourishing. That may look like a simple stool/bench, but it's an example of the kinds of projects that students are working on where the skills that go into it, identifying a cut list, what's the purpose of the form, how are you modifying this prototype in front of you. To give you a concrete example, one of the more popular projects turned out to be an Adirondack chair that the students then looked at and said, how can I do that better? We now have folding versions of it, love seat versions of it. Again, in each of these cases, an adult did some learning aside to prepare for and really go after what the students were asking for. Other things to be very proud of, things that draw people here, whether they be students or prospective staff or people moving into your communities. Our outdoor spaces on our campuses are well used and well loved. Many classes take their students outside, be it math, science, art, and use our outdoor spaces. A lot of the projects students are doing in the shop or through flexible pathways are geared towards adding to those outdoor spaces, be it building a woodshed or stools, tables to be used. And of course, we're incredibly proud of our music program. Top center, all those students in white shirts is an example I want to highlight of one of the student groups we have currently active this year. Those are our student ambassadors. They provide all kinds of things from welcoming new students to our school, providing tours, answering questions of community members coming in for various events, providing childcare. Again, just one of the student groups that are active by their choice, by their buy-in, by a group of students saying we can do something better and we want to have a hand in doing that. One of the things we lean very heavily into the middle school that builds towards programming that students can take advantage of here in the high school is our flexible pathways. any number of things going on, whether it's in the class where students pursue a question or a passion project, or those supplemental engagements we have outside of just the Flexible Pathways class. Any number of projects going on. There's a Gaga pit on this campus built by students over on the Bethel campus. We have students who are engaging in Algebra 1 through VTVLC, who are asking, hey, can I learn more about, in one particular case, U.S. history? So they're taking actual high school courses in the middle school based on their interest. A lot of Flexible Pathways is not just based on chasing after your passion or that question you want to pursue. It's also trying to couple that with, and how are you becoming a citizen who gives back to their community? So you see at the top, we highlight mentoring opportunities, working with younger groups in reading in small class or younger classrooms, working with food service, not just to learn the life skill and the work skill, but also to be part of serving back into their community. A lot of things we can be proud of in leaning into the Flexible Pathways. The kernel I'd like you to take away is countless opportunities for students to go above and beyond just the core classes and look at things that gear them for life skills, for career skills, job readiness, start exploring those things they might want to do, again, when they come up here into the high school and take advantage of the offerings here. This year, we did have a student placed in a work-based learning environment thanks to partners, central office, high school, and in the community, and within our own school. So these are programs that are growing, chasing after the how do we create curiosity. Curiosity coupled with how does this benefit my community? How does this improve things? Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Jeff Thomas.
So here at White River Valley High School, we have a lot to celebrate. I am pretty loud, sorry, you'll hear me. So a couple of the things we do, I think probably one of the most important things that if you look back at your high school career is that sense of belonging. Like you want to feel part of that school, and how do you feel part of a school? So we really enhance a lot of that. We do our outings, we do 3 outings every year, and this was a pickleball tournament, that first picture on the left of an outing that we did. Every year we go ice fishing, of course, on one of our winter outings, along with skiing and so forth. And what's fun is all the entire school is shut down because everyone is on an outing, teachers and everyone. And some of the communication that they have between student and teacher at that moment is priceless. Now they come into your classroom and they want to be in there, they're engaged, and it makes a huge difference when you feel a sense of belonging to your school. Next up is our senior capstone project that one of our seniors did. This was the first year that we required our students to do that as seniors. This is a senior, Wyatt Cadwell, talking about his future job. He wants to run a business, so that was his business proposal in front. Next up is our winter track team. 3 students just went to New England, and I just want to say one of our students, Jack, came in 14th in New England for the long jump. Pretty impressive, Jack Hughes. Hannah Collins is catching the bass, her first bass through the ice right there. We say it was a 5-pounder because she was holding it out. Anybody that bass fishes understands that you hold your fish out, it looks bigger, so that's Hannah. We'd like to recognize our staff. On the right is DJ Craven, our boys basketball coach. DJ was recognized as the coach of the year for Vermont. So I tell you what, how do you build school community? You celebrate. I love celebrating. Anytime a student, teacher, faculty member, anybody does something that we can celebrate, we're going to celebrate because that's who we are. And that really builds a sense of community. Next is our National Honor Society did a skating outing for all kids up on the green. Braden Russ scored 1,000 points down at Twin Valley. I don't know if anyone's ever been to Twin Valley, but you get in your car and you drive, and when you hit Massachusetts, you turn left. And that was where he scored 1,000 points. And the crowd that was there was phenomenal to travel that far to see that. Again, we're celebrating our students. Next up is our band and choir. And if you haven't heard a concert, it's something you should go to. It's really amazing. And then the concert is on the right there, celebrating. Some academic things, somebody said, oh, we don't talk much about academics, we talk a lot about community, and our academics is going through the roof, and our enrollment is going through the roof, and part of that is because we do celebrate, and we do have that sense of pride. We just have some statistics up there. This senior class, 78% are looking to go to college or technical school, 11% in the workforce, and then 11% are taking a gap year. On the bottom right, we talk about early college. We have 2 students in early college. Our collaborative diploma program, we have 15 students. Our dual enrollment is 4. Our community-based learning is 16, which is up about 12 students from last year. And I just want to highlight that a little bit. Community-based learning. We have a guy that works as a plumber here at our school, and he's wanting to retire for the last 10 years, but he can't find anybody to take over. And so having our students help out and do these jobs that are available and make good money and good living. So we have students that will go out into the workforce. And now we have 16. John Rhodes has done an amazing job this year promoting that. And these are just pictures of kids that are actually out in the workforce working right now. They're getting credit and they're getting paid and they're getting an experience. So I just want to thank John for that. Last up is our activities. There's Braden up on the left with the cake. I think, again, we've got to celebrate. What is a celebration without a cake? So anybody that scores 1,000 points gets a cake. There's our drama program here on the next to the left there. And then just some highlights of the school year. So through sports and through our Wizard of Oz play that's coming up in March, I just want to highlight that in case you want to make sure you come and see that. And lastly, one of the things that we do at our assemblies is I say we are, and everyone yells Wildcats. And it's one of these traditions I started when I first started here. So every assembly I go, we are. That's a little lame, but I was just testing you. So we'll be better the next time. So before I leave, we are. All right, thank you.
He doesn't know this is coming. I just want to note in front of a large crowd what I would have said behind Jeff's back. we've appreciated having him as part of our community and want to acknowledge everything he's done to build that sense of community. And I just want to acknowledge in front of all these people, thank you for your contributions to this.
Now that we have the boring part out of the way, we can start talking about the budget, and what the school board's been up to. So just before we get into the budget and start talking numbers, just wanted to talk about what the school board's been up to this year. It's been a really busy year. We've been continuing the usual work of reviewing our existing board policies and revising them. At the SU level, we adopted a communications plan, which will help guide how the school is communicating with the community. We had the community engagement task force do a evaluation of our school district by surveying students, staff, families, and the community to, now that we've been a district for 5 years, like how are we doing and what can we do better? And that report is on the school website if anybody wants to check it out. And of course, one major focus has been to try and get the second phase of our building upgrades completed, and that's what the bond vote in November was about, and also what we're asking again for now, and that's been a big focus of our work this year. And of course, developing the budget. Going forward into next year, I think a large focus will be monitoring what things are happening at the State House with the governor's proposal for reforms to education in Vermont and district governance and finance. And so monitoring that and communicating with everybody about how that's going is going to be an important part. This is it seems like there is a lot of momentum for something to happen, but it's important for everybody to be engaged and find out and communicate with your representatives to make sure that it's something that, makes sense and actually provides positive change for our students. And of course, continuing the regular work of the board of revising policies and monitoring progress towards the goals we've adopted. Before we dive into our proposed budget, we're going to look at what happened with the budget that finished in June. That was FY24, and it basically broke even. So we were a little bit higher on both the revenue and expenses side, so the net spending was a $7,000 deficit, which for a $14 million budget is basically breaking even. We had some money left over from previous years, so there's a audited fund surplus of $212,000, and we're asking that $200,000 of that be put aside for the building reserve fund. Last year's, or the current year's budget, FY25, we made some additional investments in academic intervention and behavioral intervention. And the principals touched on this a little bit, but we are really seeing good results with the investments that we've been making. So the elementary students scoring well below average decreased by 1/3 between the fall and the winter. And the behavior statistics, where major behavior referrals are actually all down school throughout the different levels of our school by 1/3 between this time last year and this year. So we're seeing some of those investments that we asked you guys for last year pay off in this year's results. Looking at the budget that we're proposing for this year, we're proposing a $15.2 million total budget, which will be maintaining the staffing that we currently have in our buildings to continue the progress and momentum that we're seeing. Our budget has lower growth than the Vermont average, and it continues the trend of tax savings and stability that we've seen over the last few years. So the net result this year is that Royalton's homestead education rate will be going down 7.8 cents, while Bethel's will be going up 3.5 cents. If you look at the 5-year trend, Royalton's down 20 cents and Bethel's down 1.7 cents. So we're seeing tax savings in both towns over the longer term. Looking at what our budget pays for, about 2/3 of that budget is staff salaries and benefits. These are teachers, the support staff, the administration, all those things are, 2/3 of the budget. And then the other 1/3 keeps the lights on, pays for buses, student supplies, and kind of the other things for keeping the school running. The change between last year and this year, we're proposing an $819,000 total spending increase, of which about half of that is the salaries and benefits. Salaries just, there's contracted raises built in, and when that's a large portion of the budget, that winds up, even if it's not a large percentage increase, it winds up being a larger number. The benefits, health insurance, and those rates are going up as well, and so that's that portion. The special ed and SU portion of the budget is up about $200,000, and about half of that is due to similar salary and benefit increases at the SU budget, but the other half is because we actually have more students in our schools, and that means we pay a larger percentage of the SU budget because we have a larger percentage of the students. So about half of that increase is good news, because when we have more students, even if that makes that portion of the budget higher, it helps with our taxes. There's $95,000 for a school-based clinician that was part of, paid for with grant funding, that we now have to pay for out of our district budget, and then $77,000 of miscellaneous other cost increases. This is all offset by an extra $218,000 of local revenue, most of which is $200,000 of extra tuition revenue from extra projected tuition students. We do like to be conservative with our tuition student projections so that, if we're off, we miss low so that we have surplus money, extra revenue, rather than missing high and having a deficit. So to look how this comes into a tax calculation, the first thing we do is calculate the per pupil spending by taking our spending, subtracting out the local revenue, and then dividing that by the long-term weighted average daily membership, which is basically our student count, but with extra weighting added for students who cost more to educate, like lower income students, high school students, or English as a second language students. So our long-term weighted ADM is actually up 2% this year, which is, again, good news, as that helps lower our taxes. So our per pupil spending is just up 2.5% this year. Next, we calculate the equalized tax rate, which takes the per pupil spending and divides that by the state yield factor, which is the factor the state uses to adjust how much revenue is raised through taxes. And then we get our actual tax rates by dividing that equalized tax rate by the common level of appraisal, which is a factor used to adjust appraised values to market values. As all the towns in the state are paying into the ed fund, state ed fund, they need to do an adjustment to make sure that the differing levels of appraisals doesn't mean that different towns are paying in more or less to the ed fund, and so that's the way that they do that. The way they're calculating the CLA is changing this year, and what they're doing is dividing the CLA that we're used to seeing by a statewide adjustment, and basically what this does is makes it so the adjusted CLA reflects the change in CLA relative to the statewide average. So what would happen before is as property values rose around the state, CLAs would go down, which would make taxes go up, and so the state would then adjust the yield downward, and you'd wind up with these, just those two factors going in opposite directions, and it made it difficult to see what was actually causing tax increases. By adjusting it to the statewide average, it makes it easier to see, like, our taxes are up because our CLA is up more than the rest of the state, or it makes it easier to see what's responsible for tax increases. So looking at our numbers, both of our towns actually did see larger CLA decreases than the state average, which puts upward pressure on our tax rate. With Bethel's drop of 13% and Royalton's drop of 7.6%, both more than state average, and Bethel's was particularly large this year. One thing to note is that Bethel will be seeing a reappraisal that goes into effect in April. All the numbers I have here are for the pre-reappraisal numbers, because that lets you compare last year to this year. When the reappraisal happens, your appraised value will go up, but the tax rate will go down. So the rates that we're talking about here would apply for your prior to reappraisal values. Meanwhile, the state yield change was equivalent to about a 20% increase, which helps lower taxes, so that was good news. Again, looking at the final results of all that, Bethel's rate would be 1.5411, and Royalton's rate would be 1.4426. So Bethel's 2.3% increase is equivalent to a $66 increase for a $200,000 house. Again, that's with the current appraised levels, not the new appraised levels. And Royalton's is equivalent to $156 of savings for a $200,000 house. One more tax rate that we can talk about is the Vermont property tax credit rate, and that's for people who claim the Vermont property tax credit, which if was available for households earning less than $128,000 a year. It helps make it so that rather than paying your homestead taxes based on your property value, you pay it as a percentage of your income instead, and it helps lower income residents pay lower taxes. And they have basically you take your per pupil spending and divide that by a separate income yield that the state sets to get the percentage that your taxes will be capped at. So that we have some good news on that front, where the income cap percent is going from 2.36% down to 2%. So for lower income households, like if for a household that has $50,000 of income, this would be $180 of savings on their tax bill. And that applies to both towns because it is based on income and not property value, so the CLA doesn't apply. So lower income residents in both Royalton and Bethel will be seeing tax savings. The final rate that you might see on your tax bill is the non-homestead education rate, and that is going up in both towns. This is set statewide and not under our control and is not really influenced by our budget. And the increases are mostly attributable to the larger than state average CLA increases in both towns. Looking at the longer term trend, again, we've seen taxes go down in both towns over the last 5 years, particularly in Royalton, where they're down 12.6%. So for Royalton, that would be $412 of savings for a $200,000 house compared to 5 years ago, and in Bethel, it's $36 of savings. All right. Oh, that's good. Okay. Comparing how we're doing to the rest of the state, our budget growth, again, is less than state average. And particularly when you look at it on a per pupil level, we're at 2.3%, whereas the state average was projected to be 7% this year. So we're doing really well containing costs. And if you look at it as a 5-year, over the last 5 years, we're about 1.5 percentage point less per year budget increase compared to the rest of the state. So one of the things that if the state had the same growth rate since FY17 as our district has, ed spending would be $430 million less this year than is projected. So, and we wouldn't be hearing all this need about education reform. So switching to the, talk about the bond vote that we're asking people to approve for tomorrow. As I'm sure everybody remembers, we had a vote in November asking for a $3.8 million 20-year bond, and we actually had the largest turnout come out to vote for that than we've had for any other school-related vote. About twice as many voters came out as voted on the merger of the two districts back in 2017, and with all those voters, it went down by just 10 votes, so it was incredibly close. We're asking again tomorrow for voters to approve the bond for some critical facilities updates. Like it's going to be $3.8 million 20-year bond again, but we have made some changes to what we're covering with that and how we're funding it. So since the last vote, we spent time, we held meetings to solicit feedback on the project, what people valued and what they'd like to see changed, and looked at different options for how we might alter the project, looking at things like lowering the roof height or decreasing the expansion footprint. But in the end, we didn't find that the savings that would provide would be worth the functionality decrease that would have entailed. None of the changes were really worthwhile. We looked at our financing options and finalized our plan for a second attempt. And so what we wind up doing was focusing the project scope. So one of the things that we did get feedback on was that some people felt like the Performing Arts Center was more extravagant than the taxpayers would like to pay for. So what we've done is pared that concept back to just asking the taxpayers to fund the basic music rehearsal space expansion. So we're just asking for the classroom space without any of the extras that were in the previous proposal. As part of that, we removed any speculative grant funding and fundraising money from the proposal. So all the money that is required beyond the bond we have in hand and is fully secured. And the final thing that I think will hopefully provide some incentive to vote for it is that, our current budget that we're proposing, again, provides tax stability. We did hear a lot about people worried about all the uncertainty over education financing and worries about increasing school budgets and taxes. And so another year where we're seeing tax stability and savings. And in fact, the amount of savings that we are providing in this year's budget, particularly for the lower income residents, is more than what we're asking for an increase for this bond. So why are we asking for this now? We still have those same building deficiencies that we identified that we're asking to solve back in November, and so we still need to come up with a way of solving those issues. The other part is with the uncertainty over the governor's proposal on how districts will be governed, we might not have the opportunity to do this later. What the governor's proposed is having districts be merged into 5 districts total around the state, which means that we would be, part of a 50-town district and no longer have the opportunity to have a say over what happens with our school buildings. So we should do, we want to make sure that we do the work that we know is necessary now while we still have the opportunity to do it. And if there is consolidation in the future, this would set our building up well to make sure that it's in a strong position to continue, for any discussion of consolidation of schools going forward. Let's see. So we've been talking for a while now, so I'm going to just quickly run through what's in the bond. The first thing would be secured entrances. So the White River Valley Middle School entrance and the White River Valley High School entrance in the rear of this building don't meet school safety standards. And the White River Valley High School entrance particularly is, we have a picture of it there. It's not particularly welcoming or obvious, and this is the entrance that many of the people who come to our building are seeing as their introduction to our school. So when people come to elementary, rec basketball games, this is their first introduction to our school, and they're coming in this nondescript door on the middle of a brick wall and then hanging out in a hallway while they wait for the game to start. So one of the things that we're proposing is, making that entrance secure with double entry vestibules where you enter one set of locked doors and then get buzzed in through a second set of locked doors that would be happening on both the White River Valley High School side and the middle school side, but we would also be constructing a lobby for the high school entrance so that people coming into our buildings for basketball games, rec basketball games or plays or performances would have a nice space to come into as they come into our buildings. We're proposing a shop expansion. The current shop space is too small for the demand and limits the size of projects that can be built. And so we're proposing adding a 1,000 square foot addition that would help with that issue. It would provide more opportunities for workstations and the ability to bring, multiple cars in at a time instead of just one. The music rehearsal room that we currently have is at the far end of the building from where our performance space is, so it's inconveniently located. It gets very noisy and is too small for the number of performers that we currently have in the band. As we have seen enrollments increase, the spaces like the shop and the music room are really not meeting the demand that we have from our students. It's also shared with the elementary school, which makes it so that the elementary school half the time has to, elementary music classes have to be taught in individual classrooms instead of in a dedicated music room. And it also makes it so that our high school ensembles have to set everything up and then put everything back every single time that they want to rehearse, which takes time away from learning. So we're proposing the 3,000 square foot addition next to the elementary gym, which would provide the basic rehearsal space and office space for the music department. It would also include some extra storage and be directly connected to the stage. There would also be some ventilation upgrade for places in our high school that don't have active ventilation, namely the library and science rooms. We would be looking to convert the existing oil heat burner on the South Rhode Island campus to propane and remove the oil tank, underground oil tank that is reaching the end of life, and replace that with propane. And there'd be money in there for stormwater abatement, as our building currently isn't up to current regulations, and we'd need to do something in the next year or two to comply with existing regulations. This would also help us comply with regulations for the added space as well. So the total project cost has been decreased from $6.8 million down to $6.17 million. And we have $1.8 million of capital funds and a $500,000 donation that we would be using to fund the remainder of the project from the $3.8 million bond. The cost of the average homeowner, which in both of our towns at the current appraisal levels, average homeowner has a $200,000 appraised house. The average cost would be less than $50 a year. And for lower income residents who claim the Vermont property tax credit, that cost would be even less. So for a owner earning less than $40,000 a year would have less than $20 cost. So again, this is less than the tax savings that we're seeing in this year's budget. And that doesn't even take into account the fact that we think it's likely that this will draw in additional tuition students. So if it draws in just one tuition student a year, then the average cost becomes $29 per year. And if you get 2 extra a year, then that becomes $11 a year. So, bringing in extra students will help offset the cost. The vote is tomorrow. If you haven't voted already, you can vote between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. Bethel residents vote on the Bethel school campus, and Royalton residents vote here. I hope everybody does. In addition to before we move on, just talk about the reserve fund real quick. Our current balance is the $1.8 million, and we're asking that we transfer $200,000 of our surplus to that as well. So we'd have a total of $2 million in our reserve fund. And in addition to the bond vote, we also would be voting on school director positions. In Royalton, David Dumais is on the ballot. And in Bethel, nobody's on the ballot. I have heard about Jamie Daniel, who's running as a write-in candidate. And I'd encourage the people running to introduce themselves during public comment. So that's all we have today. And thank you again for your coming out and your continued support.
Article 5, to fix the salaries in the amount of $600 per member for the school district officers for the 2025-2026 school year. Do I hear a motion? And you are? Chris? Maybe, okay. And second? Yes, sir. Allison, second. I'm writing these down. Sorry? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Let's see. If there's no objection? No? No. We have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. The motion is to fix the salaries in the amount of $600 per member for the school district officers for the 2025-26 school year. All those in favor, raise your cards. All those opposed? The ayes have it. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion carries. Article 6. To fix the salary in the amount of $1,200 for the school district treasurer for the 2025-2026 school year. Do I hear a motion? Do I see a motion? Yeah. Jane Kraus. Second? Adam. Hi, Adam. We have the motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, raise your card. Anyone opposed? The motion appears to carry. The motion is carried. Article 7, shall the voters authorize the school board to borrow money by issuance of notes not in excess of anticipated revenue for the fiscal year July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026? Do I hear a motion? Or do I see a motion? Does anyone want to make a motion? Allison motions. Charlie seconded. Charlie Bascom seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your card. Opposed? It looks like it's unanimous. It is unanimous. Motion carries. Article 8. Shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to expend $15,201,398, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The White River Unified District estimates that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in per pupil education spending of $12,251.79, which is 2.52% higher than per pupil education spending for the current year. Is there a motion? Gene Kraus. Is there a second? Dave Eddy. Any discussion? Hearing none. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Would you step up to the microphone, please, and identify yourself?
I'm John Ennis from Bethel, and I just had a couple of comments to make. I appreciate everybody's efforts on the school board for the coming fiscal year, but it's simply just not enough. The budgets are driving seniors away. The current year and prior year's expenditures were way too high. We don't have a population base to support these expenditures. Some towns in Vermont are putting forth level budgets and in some cases reduced budgets for their voters. We need to start by rejecting this year's budget and eliminating the positions that were added during the current year. There's also a grant funded position that we're going to be voting for this coming year as well. And I think when grant money runs out, then those positions shouldn't be continued as well. The bond budget should be rejected tomorrow as well. Again, we cannot afford it. It will come with increased operation costs. There's more than just the cost of the capital expense. There's the heating and ventilation costs and all those that come forward, all the utility costs, and probably eventually the need for another custodian to take care of that space. All increased costs that seniors can't afford. To say that renters will not have an increase in their rent on the bond budget is kind of misleading, because if you raise the taxpayers' costs for a landlord for his or her taxes, then more than likely he or she is going to pass that cost on to renters as well. And the final question I had was how does one go forth and put forth a motion to vote on all future school budget ballots, the entire budget, not just the school board directors and bond votes, but the entire budget by Australian ballot. I'm not sure how to go forward with that and how that happens. And that's all I have.
Any other discussion?
Let's make a motion to go to paper ballot.
There's a motion for paper ballot. Well, I need seven people to raise their ballots, or raise your card. We're going to go for a paper ballot, and I'd ask that the boards of civil authority come forward. They will be handing out ballots and collecting the ballots. Make sure you have your card with you. And I need to read I believe I need to read the article again. The Article 8, shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to expend $15,201,398, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The White River Unified District estimates that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in per pupil education spending of $12,251,079, which is 2.52% higher than per pupil education spending for the current year. So when the boards are ready, okay. Do we put Royalton on one side, Beth on one side?
I think we're going to get them, I'm going to be over this end, Bob will be over this end, so they can go to whichever places. But make sure they have their voter card to show us. Make sure they have their voter card to show us.
Yes, sir. Adam?
Australian ballot, but we haven't actually moved yet to go to the vote. Because the discussion is done before we can pass the ballots. Yeah, we're just getting ready. I've seen some people that have gone and collected. I'm just making sure that we're still on.
We are in, I didn't hear any additional discussion, so I read the article for the second time, and my understanding is that we're ready to vote. Is that? So if so let me just make sure we understand this. If you vote yes, you're going to be handed a ballot. You can vote yes or no. Yes means you support the article as written. No means you oppose it. And are the boards ready? You can come forward and cast your ballot. Make sure you have your card and show your card to the members of the Board of Civil Authority. They do. Sorry.
If you're up for a question, Gene Krause's motion and Adam Stearns.
It's S-T-E-A-R-N-S.
Okay.
Oh, and I get to vote too.
so the yes is, we're voting on the budget right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to burn. Thank you.
So I need a ballot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were asking where the boxes were.
Yeah, the whole table didn't get ours.
Yeah,
Okay, here, I'll get you guys all one right now.
Okay.
Chris Jarvis is challenging the vote where they forgot it, because he said that how do we know that people, they handed everyone one. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Would you mind if we just about people holding up the boxes to show people who they are?
Okay. May I remind everyone that the people who have the boxes are collecting the ballots, and you need to show your card to the person collecting your ballot. My question is,
There was a place where you could thank Rodney Rainbow, Jones being on the board as well.
oh, okay.
Where that fits in, but if you don't mind just saying the board would like to thank.
Rodney, hold on. Rodney, Rainville, and, oh, Andrew's leaving too. Okay. Okay.
Is at least a little confusion.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because of the person who asked about an Australian ballot.
Yes.
I have said
What are my options?
that we were discussing the budget as written. If the person had voted to amend, we would have gone into a discussion about that.
The amendment.
Yes, but he did not do that. He did not make a move to amend. So we resorted back to the original ballot.
Does anybody, I was going to say, ask them, if anybody needs us to bring them up.
Has this been turned? Oh. If anybody needs to have the box brought to you for the collection of the ballot, please raise your hand. If anybody needs the box brought to you for purposes of casting your ballot, please raise your hand, because we are close to finishing the voting. Has everyone who wished to vote cast a ballot?
And you're going to close the poll if you hear no.
Okay. Hearing no objections to closing, I will declare the balloting closed, and they can the civil authority boards can start counting. I don't have an answer to your question.
Okay, so how do you do that to raise the motion to have all future ballots done by Australia?
You go to the select board.
Okay.
Or of the supervisor union, you have to go to this board and request that it get on the ballot for next year.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
year Suburban it is? You know what color? There is a Suburban in the parking lot with its lights on, and I thought automatic shutoffs would work, but apparently the lights are still on, and you may have a dead battery if you don't get out there and turn them off.
Yeah, but I think everybody needs RJ Wilson, whether they know it. And so glad he's stayed.
I am too. It's probably the same time.
Yes. And you have you been a moderator in the past?
No. Thank you, Allison. Thank we have the results of the paper ballot on Article 8. Yes votes, there were a total of 203 votes, with one blank would make it 204. Yes was 160, no 43. Article 8 carries. Okay. Article 9. Shall the voters authorize the school board to transfer part of the audited fund balance existing on June 30, 2024, estimated to be $212,729, in an amount not to exceed $200,000 to the White River Unified District Capital Improvements and Maintenance of Facilities Fund? Do I hear a motion? And you are?
John Hills.
Is there a second? Allison Fulcher, second. Is any discussion? Adam?
For the board, you mentioned earlier that we actually had a deficit of $7,000 based on last year's budget. We're talking about maybe $12,000 into this account. We've authorized you guys to write notes for funds up to certain revenues. Historically, will that $12,000 cover that as opposed to having to take out notes for work? Or is that money not available for stuff like that?
Are you talking about Article 7 where we were authorized to borrow money? So that's because our tax revenue, so the state sends us money kind of on multiple times during the year. So that money is, it's a lot more than $12,000. That's millions of dollars that keeps us running until that tax money comes in. Does that answer the question, or probably not?
Further discussion. Basically, that what money's left in that account, you guys borrow money to do that. This account would be part of it.
Right.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Shall the voters, Article 9, shall the voters authorize the school board to transfer part of the audited fund balance existing on June 30, 2024, estimated to be $212,729, in an amount not to exceed $200,000 to the White River Unified District Capital Improvements and Maintenance of Facilities Fund? All those in favor, please raise your cards. All those opposed? Was that? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion carries. Article 10, to discuss the details regarding the bond vote. Have we dealt with that matter already with the presentation from the board? Is there anything you wish to add to that presentation?
No.
No. Is there a question? Does anyone wish? Yes.
Was this PowerPoint be available to us to look at?
Please use the microphone.
The question is the PowerPoint available to the general public via the website?
So all the information that's on there is on the website that we put together for the bond, which is bit.ly/WRUDBOND.
That's not easy enough.
Yeah. Do you want to come to the microphone and speak, or?
I just want to come and explain the idea of the tuition. Where does the tuition come from?
Okay. Yeah, I can speak to that. So, sorry, what? So the question was, what tuition revenue were we referring to? And where does that tuition revenue?
Where does it come from?
Where does it come from? So when towns that have school choice that don't operate a high school, they can send their students to any of the surrounding towns and they pay tuition to the school that they go to. So students from Tunbridge or Chelsea or Rochester or Stockbridge, Sharon, if they choose to come to our high school, their school districts send money to our school district. So that money comes into our budget as offsetting revenue, and it offsets the expenses that we have in our budget and helps lower our taxes. Sure. The website is bit.ly/WRUD bond, all one word. It's a regular website.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Don Hiltz from Tunbridge. I graduated from this school back in '65, so I've got a little history with this area. My only question is, given the current, not so much the state, but given the current situation nationwide with import tariffs and whatever going on, is there any guarantees that this budget bond is going to cover the expense? And when do you anticipate, should the vote go in favor of the bond, starting the construction and whatever, so that we can get in before, I mean, prices of material is going up constantly. Also, I know as a senior, this is hardship. Even if you're not a senior, it's a hardship on all of us. But given the current state of the buildings, the age of the buildings, my class was helped move the elementary school from the old law school building down here that first year. Given the current age of these buildings, other than this facility here, I don't feel that we can conscientiously kick the can down the road again without doing something to bring these buildings up to a standard that they need to be, and the state's going to start mandating, which I don't think we really want to get into either.
Thank you. Could you remind me what your first question was? Oh, how soon will construction happen? So I think if the bond is approved, we basically immediately start getting bids for and settling on contractors and all that. So I think the goal would be to start construction in the summer and have it go through the fall and be finished, I think, next summer. You know, we'd originally planned on doing that work, kind of having contracts set by March. So we're basically just pushing things back a few months compared to what we'd originally planned on. Your second question or point, I think our school facility is actually in pretty good shape. We've done a good job of continuing to fund renovations, or not renovations, but general maintenance. So if you compare our school to like Randolph or Woodstock, where, you know, they've got leaks in the ceilings in some places, and like we don't have much of that here, and we've done a pretty good job of keeping on top of maintenance. So our facilities are actually in pretty good shape. We have this really nice gym area. So I think that this is kind of, you know, as part of this process, we've kind of done an overview of our facilities and what they need as part of kind of a long-term plan. And this is what we've identified as what is needed to bring our schools up to, you know, up to standard and set us up for continuing through the future.
Any further discussion of Article 10, discussing the details regarding the bond vote? Yes, sir.
No federal money.
Just knowing what the current.
Right. Right. And I did hear this question elsewhere as well. If you look at our budget on as a whole, like the only federal funds that are in our local budget, if you look at the revenue line, there's basically just $180,000 total of federal funds in our local budget. We have more at the SU level, about a similar amount of federal funds at the SU level. There's a lot of special education funds, but I would think that those would be much harder legally to cut than kind of the others. So we're, you know, like I think we're relatively safe on that regard. But there's no federal funds in the bond.
Any further discussion of Article 10? Seeing that there's no action to be, oh, I'm sorry.
Paul Feeney from Bethel. You just said you presented some numbers of, I don't recall the exact number for the bond vote. How are you getting those numbers if you haven't already talked to contractors and have bids and everything out there? Those numbers are going to change very rapidly in this thing, so how are you going to accommodate for overruns to that number?
So we've been working with EEI Investments, which has done some work for us already with the Bethel boiler replacement, and you know they helped us through that process. And when we did that, they came in under budget from what they originally quoted us. So, you know, they reached out to contractors. They don't have firm contracts yet, but they got estimates for all the different aspects of the project, and that's what we're basing it off of. They also included a 5% contingency in that estimate, so, you know, like they took the quotes and then added some already, but yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing that there's no action to be taken on this article, we can move on, I believe we can move on to Article 11, to transact any other business which may legally come before this meeting. At this point, I would like to take the opportunity to recognize the service that two members of the board who are planning not to return to the board, including Andrew Jones and Rodney Rainville, be extended our sincere appreciation for their efforts, and you'll be missed. I believe there was also a request to identify a person who would like to be a candidate for the Bethel position on the school board. Would you stand and identify yourself? Yes.
I actually wrote a little spiel here. My name is Jamie Daniel, and I'm running as a write-in candidate for the Bethel position. I know some of you guys already, but if you don't know me, I moved to Bethel here almost 4 years ago to be closer to family members. And since arriving, I've been involved in a number of community building activities, such as helping organize the Juneteenth Day community picnic that about 300 people came to last year, and also various Bethel Pride Fest events. I've also made it a point to attend Bethel Select Board meetings when I can in order to keep up on issues and initiatives in the town. Prior to retiring, I'm one of those retired folks in Bethel. I worked as an educator and also as an education union organizer for more than 40 years. I know from my experience doing that the importance of a safe and well-financed and well-supported K-12 education structure. As a board member here, I will be committed to helping ensure that our public schools continue to have the resources and the community support they need so that all of our students can be well prepared for life after school and hit the ground running, whether they decide to start a local business, as was mentioned earlier, practice a trade. Also, I love the work experience people can get in school, or go to college and or start a family. So I look forward to collaborating with parents and teachers to meet these goals. I'd be honored to serve on the school board. I'd appreciate your vote on Tuesday. I'm not on the ballot, and if you would like to support me, my name's Jamie Daniel, and you can write me in tomorrow in Bethel after you eat your pie. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. If there is no I'm sorry, other business, go ahead.
Yeah, just on under other business, my name's Gio Honeyford. I'm from Royalton. I want to make people aware of an organization that Greg and myself helped form last year, because we're concerned about how public dollars go to private schools, and private schools do not play by the same rules. They have a whole watered down set of rules they comply with. There are some private schools out there getting public money, and they openly discriminate about kids. They say, well, we don't want those kind of kids. We don't do that here, and we should never do that here. So if you're interested in this issue, Friends of Vermont Public Education is the name of the group, Friends of Vermont Public Education. We could use people's support on our mailing lists, and we have a lobbyist hired, and we're working in Montpelier to change this. Thank you. Greg?
Hi, Sandy Conrad, Royalton. I'm pretty saddened that this gentleman asked some questions of the board and didn't have the opportunity for the board to answer him. So I just want to say that, because a piece that he said at the end is really important to me that I wanted to get up and talk about, is because I've been trying to get this through for many years. 160 people voted for this budget. We have over 3,000 registered voters between our two towns. And I think it's really important that we look to try to change to an Australian ballot. In the theme that we hear from all of you about community involvement and getting the community involved, I think this is a good way to do it. I think in democracy, the more people that have an interest in the vote, that have the opportunity to vote, is really important. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other business? Greg?
I just wanted to follow up on what Gio said about our group. We're called Friends of Vermont Public Education, but we do have a website. If you go to www.savevtpubliced.org, you can follow us and get on our mailing list. As Gio said, we're basically interested in compelling public money to go to public schools. If you really want to wonder why our taxes are out of control in this state, we are paying for 3 school systems now. We're paying for a public school system, we're paying for a private school system, and we're paying for a religious school system. We are presently paying tuition to 86 independent schools in Vermont, and more than half of them have less than 50 students. And we're also paying tuition to 15 religious schools now in Vermont. So if you want to get control of our taxes, please line up behind us. We want to keep public money in public schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gene Krause, Bethel. Another shout out for our public schools. This is not only about the young people who are our current students. We live in a democracy. And a democracy means that every person needs to be educated. Every person needs to have the ability to do some critical thinking, or the democracy goes down the tubes. If we're going to be in a democracy, we must have public schools where everybody has the opportunity to be well educated across a broad range of things, because we need that, or our society goes to the dogs. I was once one of those young people. I'm way past that now, but I benefit from a positive public education in my community.
Yes.
I'm Joe Lavasser from Royalton, and I'm not sure if the candidate for the Royalton seat is here, but I would like to meet the person by way of being introduced.
Will he stand?
I am here. I think everybody can probably hear me without.
No, come to the microphone.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. I didn't write anything down. I'm Dave Dumais. You could always call me David if you like, but I usually go by Dave. I've been in South Royalton for a little over 8 years. My wife, Adrienne, grew up here. She's right over there. There we go. I have 3 small kids that go to school here at the elementary school. I've been going to the various school board meetings and community events for a number of months, and I think I have a lot to offer. I spend a lot of time in public service. I have education in, I have a business education, I have an MBA. I spend a lot of time dealing with budgeting and fiscal matters and fraud prevention, that sort of thing in my day-to-day life. So, look forward to serving the town. Should you so choose to vote for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Stone from Bethel, and I'll actually talk more in this direction. I want to give a huge thank you to the board, to the staff, the faculty, administrators, all the teachers, volunteers, coaches who are here in this room. As a parent of 2 kids, I can say the work you all put in, the caring that you bring to this job is absolutely incredible. And if you don't have kids in the school system, you might not see that, but trust me, what an amazingly caring school this is. That's what makes it harder to say the second part of what I have to say. Sandy, I appreciate your comment, John's comment, around wanting to see more people here making this decision. But I have never been more disappointed than I am in the last couple of weeks, in the last few months, in what I am seeing from people in our communities coming out on social media, coming out in conversations, even coming out in comments here tonight. It's opinions that are put across as facts that are not facts. It's people tearing down our school board members, our planning commissioners, our town managers, our local officials, saying, who do these people think they are? I read that comment not long ago about our school board. I'm hearing comments, why are they trying to force this on us? Why are they trying to do it? I work with communities all across the country and local officials, and I can tell right now, not one is volunteering to sit on a board because it's really fun to get torn down like that, because it's really fun to put together policies and watch them get torn to shreds. I would love to see us have more people involved, but with what I'm seeing on social media, I think this is still the way we need to do it, to come face to face, to have conversations, to listen to other sides. I heard 10 great points just chatting with people in the aisles today about what the school bond means to them, what it could do, why it's needed for their kids, why it might help us hold on to our schools. I heard 10 important comments about the cost and how to control that. That conversation could have gone on a long time tonight. It's not happening effectively on social media. And our town manager told me this week, she thinks it's because people are afraid, because they're too afraid to stand up and correct the misinformation, to speak up to people who are spreading lies, who are sharing their opinions without facts to back them up, who are attacking our school board members and our planning commissioners and all of our representatives. And I'm just curious, I want to ask all of you, how many of you have heard something or seen something incorrect in this cycle? How many of you have seen somebody torn down, a volunteer who's showing up day after day, week after week? And how many have spoken up to shut that down and say that that's not right?
Good.
Like, thank you. Can we all put our hands up? I know this is what our kids are being taught in schools. They are being taught to be kind, to think, to use evidence and reasoning. Claim evidence reasoning, right? CER? Can we all agree as community members that we will do that moving forward? And I know it's not easy. I know it takes us being brave. I'm in that club too. I need to do it more often. But it's just my plea to all of us that if we care about our schools and we care about the people who are showing up and volunteering their time, that we agree to do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Rebecca.
That was really well said. Is this on? Yeah, it is. Hi. Well said. Hi, I'm Nell Gwynn. I'm from South Royalton. I was wondering if the school board had any plans of action to go to the state to push back on that whole 5-district thing, because that sounds pretty scary to me.
So the supervisory union and our district voted to join the rural, do you remember what there's a rural community school alliance, I think, which is working on lobbying at the state level for, small rural schools and trying to keep them independent. And, I think a lot of what we can also do is it's a lot to pay attention to what's happening up there. So I think us paying attention and sharing it with all of you, because again, everybody should provide feedback to their legislatures on what, they are seeing and what they think is appropriate. And, I think it's going to take all of us to really work towards that.
In addition, the superintendent was at a session at the State House on, what day is it now? Last week. Just trying to keep the public in public education, has made comments there. I am representing as both the White River Valley Supervisory Union and folks who think about curriculum on a daily basis in a policy team that's focused on the accountability and the education quality in any new legislation. Sorry, Anda Adams, the Chief Academic Officer for the White River Valley Supervisory Union. And so we're trying to participate in as many ways as possible to shape whatever changes come in ways that we think support the good work that's already happening in our schools, thinking about the really high quality education that our students get by knowing all the people around them. And so I think we are working as hard as we can with as much information as we have, and hasn't been as forthcoming with details as I think would be helpful to be able to react to.
Thank you.
If anybody else wants to respond to the, we good? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
If anybody else wants to respond to the governor's transformation proposal, please join our group. We're active. This transformation proposal is bogus. It didn't come from Vermont. This came from a playbook at a conservative billionaires, and their goal is to dismantle public education and try to privatize it. This was not homegrown from Vermont. Please oppose this. If we go down to they would want us to have 25 school board members. We now have 30 state senators. How could you possibly have local control and have 25 school board members when that's fewer than the state senators we have? This would all be politicized, and big money would come into it. And what's happening is they're trying to disintegrate our public education system, privatize it, and take local control out of the picture. I urge you to fight this process. We have a constitution in this state that has an education clause. We have a common benefit clause, and we have a compelled support clause. If we focus our energies on our state constitution, we will solve this problem. If we alternatively turn the education system over to the conservative billionaires that want to dismantle our education system, we're all going to be in a lot of trouble. So I urge you, please join us. We're fighting this every day in Montpelier.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily Simpson, South Royalton. I am an educator in New Hampshire and an NEA member there, but I'm well connected to Vermont NEA members here in this state. There are a group of educators who are looking to do a series of town halls on this exact issue. We actually need people from Windsor County, so if you are a Vermont NEA member in Windsor County or you know one, please send them to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items to take up under this article?
I just want to point out, on page 5 of your book, if you have a book, the website that was referenced is right there to have more information about the bond, and then there's also a QR code that you can scan, but people are asking for copies of that, and you can get it right on page 5 in your book.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other items to take up under other business? If there's no objection, I would like to skip over Article 12 and adjourn after, or take up that issue after we read Articles 13, Articles 13 and 14. I was advised that's the appropriate thing to do legally. The legal voters of the White River Valley Unified School District, who are registered voters of the town of Bethel, are hereby further notified and warned to meet at the Bethel Elementary School, 273 Pleasant Street, Bethel, Vermont, and the legal voters of the White River Valley Unified School District, who are registered voters of the town of Royalton, are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Royalton campus of the White River Valley School at 223 South Windsor Street, South Royalton, Vermont, on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, beginning at 8 o'clock in the forenoon, 8 a.m., at which time the polls will open until 7 o'clock in the evening, 7 p.m., at which time the polls will close to vote by Australian ballot on the following articles of business. Article 13, to elect directors to the White River Valley Unified District School District Board as follows: Royalton, 1 director for a 3-year term; Bethel, 1 director for a 3-year term. Article 14, the White River Unified School District Board proposes to incur bonded indebtedness for the purpose of making capital additions and improvements to the Bethel campus and the Royalton campus at an estimated total project cost of $6,170,000. No portion, 0% of the project will be eligible for state school construction aid because state school construction aid is not available. Therefore, 100% of the project shall be built at school district cost without state participation. The cost of the construction project, which is to be paid by the school district, is $6,170,000. So, question is, shall general obligation bonds or notes of the White River Unified School District an amount not to exceed $3,800,000 subject to reduction by federal or state grants and aid be issued to fund capital additions, improvements, and renovations to the Bethel campus and the Royalton campus, the estimated total cost for which is $6,170,000. State funds may not be available at the time this project is otherwise eligible to receive state school construction aid. The district is responsible for all costs incurred in connection with any borrowing done in anticipation of school construction aid. The legal voters of the White River Unified School District are further notified that voter qualification and registration relative to said meeting shall be as provided in Section 706U of Title 16 and Chapters 43, 51, and 55 of Title 17 Vermont statutes annotated. Upon closing of the polls, the ballot boxes will be sealed, transported to, and reopened at the Royalton campus of the White River Valley School, where the ballots will be commingled and publicly counted by representatives of the Board of Civil Authority of the towns of Bethel and Royalton under the supervision of clerk of the White River Valley Unified School District. Dated this 29th day of January, 2025, Royalton, Vermont. Now, Article 12. To adjourn the meeting until 8 a.m. March 4, 2025, when voting by Australian ballot shall commence. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor, raise your cards. Thank you very much for your attendance and putting up with me. Thank you.